Welcome back to Lights, Camera, Baby. I'm your host, Projeni Pather, and this is the podcast where we talk about the real conversations about pregnancy, parenting, and everything in between. Now, today's guest is someone who's built an entire platform on the belief that there's more good in this world than we think. And that belief, I have to say, feels especially powerful when you're a parent raising little ones in today's world. Now, Brent Lindeque is a South African entrepreneur, journalist, and the founder of Good Things Guys, South Africa's top good news platform, something we all need more regularly. And he's been named one of the top 100 most influential young South Africans by the Mail and Guardian, won GQ Man of the Year, and his platform has been featured on a list of the world's top 100 innovation success stories. Oh, and he was, by the way, one of the 4 South African journalists invited to have lunch with Oprah. Yes, that Oprah. Brent, I am extremely fortunate to be sitting next to you today. Welcome to Lights, Camera, Baby.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's such an honor. And what a bio. Whose bio is that? That's not me. That's not me. I don't know who that is. No, it's so lucky to be here. I think being a parent myself, it's important to have conversations that matter around parenting. It takes a village, they say.
Absolutely.
And I'll bring the good things to that village.
We're so glad. And I think that's exactly what we want to hear. You know, parenting is such a daunting task. I think when we all become parents, we don't really know what we're getting into until we're in it. And we need the good things. We need the good stories. So let's start with this really big question, because I think a lot of parents will relate to this, right? We're living in a time of information overload. Our phones are pinging constantly. I mean, this news cycle that we're in feels relentless. And honestly, it's really quite heavy and depressing. So how did you build this platform that is entirely rooted in good news? I mean, I often stop listening to the news because it's just so depressing. So how did this all begin for you?
Well, funny story. It started with drinking. Maybe some parents can
Right.
relate.
Some
No.
parents will.
So over a decade ago, it was in the end of 2013.
Yeah.
There was this online game that was millions of people around the world had joined this game. It was the first online trend that used social media as a catalyst to grow itself. So I don't know if you remember the bucket challenge where everybody was dumping ice on themselves for ALS. So this came just before that. This was like the original that started these challenging trends. And it started out in Australia. Millions of people around the world, including South Africa, were taking part in it. And the whole concept was to drink some sort of alcohol, maybe down a bottle of, I don't know, beer or vodka or whatever you were doing. And then do something silly at the same time while recording yourself. So there was this video element to it. It was called Neck Nominations. And I was watching, it was the end of 2013, and I was watching this trend really take over the world. It was in our newspapers and on all the mainstream media, news around the world. They were reporting on it. And I just thought to myself, drinking is easy. It's easy. Putting something like that on the internet will last forever. And that for me didn't sit right. I imagined myself a decade later, I don't know, going for a job interview, walking into a room and people are like, look at that guy. That's the guy that was half naked, upside down, drinking beer out of a toilet bowl. Like, because I would have done that. So yeah, that trend was happening. And instead of drinking, I got nominated and I decided to rather do a random act of kindness. And was it random because I planned it? Yes, it was, because the other person didn't know it was coming. But I decided to feed somebody. Not very difficult in South Africa. We have people in need all over the place. And my colleague captured it on video. And we got back to the office and I uploaded the first YouTube video I'd ever put up. I had to register on YouTube. And it went really viral really quickly. I woke up the next day and I'd gone viral around the world. There were all these missed calls on my phone from international numbers, CNN and BBC and Australia Morning, and it was really quite wild. And from that, what happened then is first first hundreds and then thousands and then hundreds of thousands, then millions of people around the world decided to change their neck nomination into what was being called as a RAC nomination, which is a random act of kindness. So
Beautiful.
all of these random acts of kindness were happening globally. People were tagging me. I know this is a very long story, but we're getting to this.
No,
People were
please.
tagging me, and it was really the wildest time of my life. And in that time, I got introduced to businesses here in South Africa that were joining the trend.
Mm-hmm.
They were amplifying the great CSI work that they were already doing. I got introduced to charities, maybe for the first time in my life that I really got involved, and individuals who were doing all these great things. And all of a sudden, South Africa didn't feel so bad, and the news didn't feel so hard. And I was being introduced to a different side of South Africa that I don't think many people had ever seen. And that lit a spark in me, not to become the sandwich guy driving around feeding people, but rather take these stories of all these incredible South African organizations and individuals and tell those stories so that other people could feel just as hopeful as I did, just as proud of our country. And it took a year. So at first I had a little radio segment on Mix FM, and then I had a radio show on Cliff Central. I did a bit of work with CNBC.
Yeah.
But after a year of being in that media space, I was like, these stories need to live somewhere. They need to live
Yes.
somewhere. So on the 1st of August, 2015, I launched what is now goodthingsguy.com. I like to say that first I had one reader, my mother. She's my biggest fan. And by the end of the day,
Guaranteed it had to be a mother.
absolutely. And by the end of the day, she showed it to my father. So I was on a pretty good wicket. But it's almost 12. It'll be 12 years this year, if my maths is correct. And is it? Yeah, it's 12. 11 years. 12 years.
There we go.
Close.
Close.
But in that time, we now, on a monthly basis, we reach over 35 million people on the platform through social media with our partners, the radio work, the TV work, and the billboards that we have around the country. So
That's
it has
amazing.
really just grown into something that's far bigger than me and something that I could have never, ever had planned for.
Well, we're extremely grateful to know that good news can travel,
Yeah.
you know?
You'd think it doesn't. So what do they say in journalism? They say if it bleeds, it leads. Because if
Yes.
the headlines are hard, that's what we speak about
Yeah.
at dinner tables and the water coolers and all the rest.
Sadly.
And sadly, that's who we are as humans. But the opposite is true as well. When there's good news happening and you can feel it in your soul, and it sets your own lights, your own fire inside of you, going, good things are happening, then we speak about those things too.
Yeah.
So it
And
is
it
possible.
changes the way we behave. It
Oh,
changes
absolutely.
our actions for the day, right? It does so much. It's amazing how it affects your entire psyche, right?
And it does, and I see it, right? So I've always been this optimistic guy. I've always been a really happy person, but more so in the work that I've been able to do, this opportunity to do this work in the last decade has really just made me a better person. It's made me a better human being. It's made my perspective of South Africa and the world a lot better. And I see it in our readership. I see it in people that engage in the stories, and how when you start to see the good, you see more good things. It literally becomes that around you.
Absolutely.
It has the power to change things for the better, I think.
Well, I think as a parenting community, I think that's exactly what we need to hear. So we're glad that you could come and share this amazing spirit of yours. Because, I mean, you know, as a parent myself, I just find it so relevant. I mean, the news that we consume, it just shapes us, like we're saying, how we feel, how we show up for our kids as
Yeah.
well. So when I talk about it being in our psyche and affecting every step that we take for the day and how we choose to go out in the world, it's how do we show up for our kids as well. And that is extremely triggering to many people.
Absolutely. So to give you real statistical proof, we see a drop in our readership when the headlines are the hardest. So the headlines are always hard. There's always things happening. The news is always newsing. But when there's a story that really takes hold of our country, that we're collectively speaking about, that we're collectively angry about, that we're collectively fearful about, our readership dips. So people tend to not be open to good news when times are tough.
Mm.
And what does that mean? That will translate directly to everybody around you, including your children.
That's
It's,
so
you
true.
know, your sentiment towards the country, it impacts you, it impacts your psyche. The good news here, because I am the good things guy, is that generally it takes one thing to pull us out of that. So even when we're in a lull, when we're in a really bad space,
Mm.
one thing will happen in our own lives, or even on a mass scale. I don't know. The Booker will win a game on the Saturday,
Mm.
and all of a sudden we're happy again, and it pulls us out of that state that we were in, where we may have been a little bit angry, fearful, or sad. So it just takes one thing. Just takes one thing. You gotta find that thing. Maybe to, if you're listening to this right now, if you're busy driving and you're going, yes, I've had a bad day, find one thing to pull you out of that, and it will.
It will. It will. Now, you talk a lot about changing the narrative, right? And I want to bring that into the home, right? So, how do we change the narrative for our children? How do we raise kids who are hopeful and resilient and without being naive, of course?
Yes, absolutely. I think it's the stories that we tell them and ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's vitally important. I find, gratitude it plays a big part in me defining my own happiness and defining those good things. You find
Mm.
things to be grateful for. You find things to be happy about, and you can share. It's not all bad in South Africa. There are stories that we can tell of really good things. I'm proof. I'm proof. The team and I are sharing up to 20 good news stories every single day. 20.
Every
20
single
every
day.
single day. And so I think the stories that we tell ourselves that will change what we tell our kids, and that you can create a hopeful home by sharing hopeful stories.
Wow. And it's those gratitude practices as well that you're talking about. I think that is so meaningful in teaching our children those gratitude practices. Like you're saying, it's those little things that we forget to be grateful for.
Yeah, 100%. So I realized in the middle of the pandemic,
Hmm.
which we tend not to talk about that time. We all just want to forget
We do.
that any of that happened, but it
We
did,
do.
and we lived through it, and it was hard for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And I had a bit of a breakdown. I'm very, very grateful with my mental health. I believe
Mm.
that I've been blessed to have a great path in this life, that I haven't been heavily impacted. But during that time, I had a panic attack, anxiety attack. It all just felt like too much, like it was too heavy.
Mm.
And I stepped away for a little bit to refocus and
Mm.
sort of look inward. And somewhere, I don't know where I read it, I don't know where I saw it, I don't know why the universe gave me such a great gift. But I learned how to change my thinking when it comes to the things that are around me, by changing a couple of words to see things to be grateful for. So we tend to, as human beings, go, I have to,
Mm.
right? What do we have to do today? Today, I had to wake up super early to be on a TV show in the
Mm-hmm.
012 in Pretoria. I was up at 4. And then in between that, I had to check my emails. I'm going to have to go to gym at some point because I have to stay healthy. And then I had to come here because it was booked and I had to sit down with you. No, I didn't have to do any of those things. I get to do them. I get to do them. This morning, my alarm went off at 4 a.m. because I'm so incredibly blessed and lucky to be able to go to a show that they want me. I get to do that.
Yeah.
I love my job. I get to answer emails. I actually have people that want to talk to me. I get to be here with you. How special is that we get to have this beautiful conversation?
Conversation.
So that was a shift in my brain. And I realized when
Wow.
we change the words, I have to I get to, we stop dressing our opportunities up as stressful things, and we start to see things to be grateful for.
Yeah.
And I've found since then that gratitude for me is a direct equal to happiness. Gratitude is happiness, and that's my practice. I look at everything I do in this frame of mind that I get to do it. I get to do it. How lucky am I?
Yeah. Yeah. You get to do it. You get to do it. Exactly. And then teaching our children to adopt this kind of attitude.
Mm,
It's like when you're waking them up for school in the morning, you have to get up. You have to brush your teeth. you have to have your breakfast. There's always have to. Now that you're mentioning this, I mean, it's
Yeah.
just part of our daily
But no,
psyche in
you
terms of
get
how we
to.
communicate.
You get to. And some things are not so lacquer.
No.
So getting to pick up your toys because your room is dirty might not seem like a nice task.
Mm,
But you have toys and you
yes.
have a lot of them. And how lucky are you? You
Yeah.
get to do that.
You
So
get to
it's
do
a
that.
frame of mind, and maybe that's if this conversation goes anywhere, if we're here for another 10 days talking, maybe that's the point that people can take right now, is that changing that frame of mind.
Mm,
It can do wonders for you and your family and your kids too.
absolutely. Now, what about talking about celebrating helpers, right? I mean, sometimes when scary things happen, if we can point our children towards the people who are actually helping, it changes the whole story that there are people
Mm.
that are willing to help. So, how would you break this down for us practically when your child asks, for example, a very difficult question? I mean, it's something scary they've heard at school or they've seen online and they start stressing and they become really, really anxious about it, right? How do we reframe that thinking so that we can instill some of that positivity and hope in our children?
So there was a man whose name was Fred Rogers,
Mm-hmm.
and Fred Rogers was born in the 1920s. And he went on to do great things in the world. He had a show in the 1970s called The Neighborhood,
Mm.
and it was all about community and kindness and good things.
Yep.
And there was a quote, which is it's been skewed a little bit in the last couple of years. So now, when you hear the quote, it says, "In times of tragedy, we need to look for the helpers because they will always be there."
Aha.
But the quote actually goes, "When I was a little boy, and I used to see the scary stuff on the news, my mother would say to me, 'Don't be scared. In
Right.
times of tragedy, always look for the helpers because they will always be there.'"
Aha.
I love that quote because it shows us two things. One, it shows us that the world has been a scary place for a really long time.
Yeah.
We sometimes think that like now it's really hard, and it is hard, but it's been hard for a lot of people for a really long time, for decades. Um, and the second reason is because it is 100% true. The helpers always arrive. They always arrive.
That's amazing.
And sometimes it can take an hour, sometimes it can take a day, and sometimes it can happen almost immediately. But when there are scary things out there, and for our kids, I mean, they're living in this world now where they have these tools at their hands that open them up to many things that
Mm.
could be scary. The helpers are there all the time.
Mm.
It's the only reason my publication exists. We get to tell the stories of the helpers, but in life as well, in the real world, on the ground. When things are scary, just remember that there are good people. The helpers are there. I call them the
You
helpers.
call them the helpers.
Call them the helpers, the heroes, and the healers. Those are the people that you should remind your kids are always there.
Yes, that makes so much sense. The helpers, the healers, and the heroes.
Yeah,
Those are the good people out there, and they'll always be there to rescue.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, we see. I mean, we see it all the time, really. In when sometimes when and we do again have bad headlines and there's challenges that we face in South Africa. But the team and I, when there is something, the recent flooding that happened in the Eastern Cape and the Western
Mm.
Cape, we knew because we've been doing this for so long. We knew that we just needed to wait a little bit to tell the other story.
Mm.
Yes, the storms are scary, and yes, people get hurt, and some people died, and it's very tragic. But in the same breath, there were rescuers that were helping people out of their homes. There were animal rescuers that were going in to rescue. The SPCA sent out a statement. They were rescuing dogs and pigs and chickens, and so there's these good stories, and they will always be there.
So it's about creating the balance with your children, about ensuring we talk about the truth, but there's that reassurance of the helpers that are there to rescue.
Absolutely. Age appropriately.
Yes, of
You would be
course.
telling the stories to your kids, but But yes, let them know the truth. We can't be naive, and
Mm.
we can't hide away from the truth.
Mm.
The truth is what it is.
Yeah.
But
Yes,
but
it is
don't
happening.
don't you worry.
Acknowledgement.
The helpers are coming.
I,
Oh, they're already there. We don't have to worry.
I love your positivity. I really love it. I think I'm hoping that it invigorates all our parents out there to take this into their homes as well, Brent. I think it's so
Thank you. That's
important.
incredibly kind.
It really is. Parenting is a tough task, and sometimes we just need some little bit of an inspiration, and that comes in the form of you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind.
Now, as you know, there's different discussions we have with our children, and a lot of them happen around the dinner table as well.
Yes.
We try to instill those behaviors, and we all sit down together and we talk. And I mean, these rituals matter, right?
Yeah.
So for you, what does a good news home actually look like in practice?
Good news homes. I think being hands-on, I think that's important. Being there for your kids and with them and at the dinner table.
Mm.
I grew up around a dinner table. Every night we would sit and well, my brothers and my sister and myself, we would have to put the knives and forks out and the placements, and then afterwards, who's washing the dishes, and it was big drama.
Yes.
But sitting around the table, I have very fond memories of that time with my family.
Yeah.
That we could sit and unpack what happened today, and what did you do at school, and who
Yes.
did you engage with and interact with. And funny enough, we got a story that was sent to us. It fits so perfectly. That was sent to us a couple of years ago about a mom and dad who had implemented something with their kids when they were really little about who did you help today? Like
Oh,
what good thing did you do today? What positive thing? How did
yes.
you and they grew up, the kids grew up and they continued doing this, and she actually wrote into us to say that her kids are now living in the UK
Hmm.
and they still will phone her at the end of the day and go, I did this today for someone else. I did
Oh,
this piece of kindness. Like that's a good news home. That's
yeah.
literally cultivating good humans that are
Yes.
kinder and just being the good news.
Yes. And I suppose it's not just about knowing, having that reassurance to know that the helpers and the heroes are there, but it's how do we cultivate our children into becoming the
Oh,
helpers and the
that's powerful.
heroes,
That's
right?
powerful. And that's exactly what I think the world would be a better place
Mm.
if everybody had that outlook.
Mm.
If as kids we could all get it because we get to,
Yes.
and at the end of the day when we become grown-ups, we're able to just spread that love and be the helpers, be the
Mm.
heroes.
Yeah.
And we
Because,
are. A lot of us are. There's a lot of people that'll be listening to this podcast right now or watching, and you know you're a helper. You know it. It's the little things that we do that maybe we don't even realize we're doing. Letting people into our lane in traffic, getting to know the cashier's name when you get
yeah.
to the queue, just being kind.
Yeah. Yeah. Those little things that
Little
we
things.
think are unimportant, but are so impactful on somebody else's life.
Absolutely.
Yep, I love that. So let's go a little bit deeper, right? Now, is there an actual science behind the impact of consuming positive content or on our mental health, our parenting, our relationships? Is there actual science behind it, or is it just a feeling?
No, absolutely. It changes your brain. It changes your behavior. It changes your outlook on life.
Mhm.
Nelson Mandela, he said once that he really he wishes that we as South Africans and human beings that all our choices will be made with hopes and not fears, because we think differently when we're in a state of hopefulness or happiness or positivity. So the way that we choose something is defined by where our heads are at. And I'm not a psychologist or a doctor, but I see it in society.
Mm.
I see what good news can do to the way that
Wow.
we perceive the world and the decisions we make from there. I see that in the last decade, how many people that have followed us and read our news, how their lives have got better, how they've been happier people, how that's impacted them.
Wow.
And so I believe, yes, 100%, there has to be scientific proof that being in a better space can only be good for you. Can only be good for you.
Absolutely. Now, for parents specifically, right, we know that like parental anxiety is on an all-time high. We're constantly fearful for the safety of our children. I mean, when our babies are born, we have moms that go through postnatal depression. There's burnout, and then this whole pressure of being the perfect parent is also not ideal. So, do you think that the media and social media, especially our ecosystem, is contributing to that?
Yeah, it's tough, right? So at the age where I'm at now, I'm a millennial,
Mm-hmm.
and so I lived in a time without social media. We had the internet, but it was dial-up. When I was in high school, you had to like make sure nobody was using the phone so that you could log on to the internet.
It was a DSL line
There
or
was
something.
ding,
Yeah.
ding, ding, ding. Just make funny noises. And the only I don't even remember what we did. I checked emails, and I think I got one email every 3 weeks. I don't know. But our lives have certainly changed. When I was at varsity, there was sort of MySpace, and then MySpace became Facebook, and now many of us can live in a time where it's all consuming. It's all consuming.
Mm.
And so yeah, it's tough. The question, we need to go back to the question because I'm veering off. I'm getting
So
into the social media space,
yeah, no, but it's how do we find the balance,
and that's exactly
right?
what it is. It's balance.
Yeah.
It's absolute balance. So I think, and coming from me, this is going to sound bizarre. My parenting friends that are listening to this now, they're going to be like, Brent, when have you ever put your phone down? But there has to be time where you're not on social media, where you're not on the phone, where you're in the real world. The social media is the real world, but also be in the real world. Be present. You know, have a no phone rule at dinner time. That everybody's phone goes into a basket and no one looks at it until all devices, iPads and everything,
Yep.
so that we can be present with each other at dinner. And I know that's easier said than done. It's we don't live in a world where that can always happen. But definitely balance is key. I actually have friends who, and one in particular, who is a parent, and he decided to remove all social media off of his phone. So the only time he accesses social media is when he's in front of his computer. Old school. It's
Wow.
old school. It's classic.
Yeah.
It's going back to the olden days.
Absolutely.
But it's done wonders for him because he's got no reason to scroll. It's it's taken that away. Do you remember that BlackBerry light? That light
Yes.
that we live in that space now,
Yeah.
where we constantly have
It's
notifications.
constantly on.
It's constantly. So yeah, I think the balance is the key there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I suppose we're setting an example of our children as well, right? Because now,
Don't say that because now I feel terrible.
No,
my,
we
my
are.
kids have watched me on my phone forever.
But we are setting an example of our children. I mean, they're watching us. They
Yeah.
watch everything we do. And they're wanting phones earlier as well, right? So they are being exposed to a lot earlier. So, we're cognizant of that. But like you said, it's about finding the balance so that we can help their mental health. And, there's this growing concern about anxiety in young children and even in preschoolers. So do you think that the stories we tell our children and ourselves play a role in that?
I do think so. Yeah, we're all complex human beings and we all have a lot going on, and every single person has a different level of stress, no matter what age you're at, no matter where you are in your career. And we all are going through things. And so the stories we tell, the news we read, the social media that we engage in, that all does add into our own story we're telling ourselves. So, yeah, again, I'm not a psychologist, but I would imagine that changing those stories would start to change your outlook. And for me, it has.
Yes.
I'm a happy guy. I said earlier on,
Yes.
I've mostly been a happy guy my whole life. I also have bad days, but I tend to be in the happiest space I'm in because of what I allow in.
Yeah.
There's something
Now,
powerful in that.
absolutely. And I think that's why, you are now allowing us to tell the good stories to our children too,
Oh yes, this is so exciting.
right?
This is so exciting. Yeah. So we recently we just looked at we have over 30,000 stories that we've written, articles that we've written. And they're all written for grown-ups, if I can put it that way. So it's breaking news, still good news, things that are happening, the helpers, the heroes, the healers, all of those great things. But what about kids? Like kids also need lekker stories so that they can feel good about the world and real stories.
Real stories, yes.
It took me back. So I was a big reader when I was a kid. My mom would take me to the library every other week, and I'd get a collection of books, and I'd try read them all in those 2 weeks or whatever. And I normally got it right.
Uh-huh.
And there was one book in particular that I kept going back to when I was really young, and it was this collection of South African animal stories. So, and it had like pictures, and I don't even
Wasn't
know
that
where.
the one where the leopard lost its spots or something?
Um,
Was that
so
in that
so
story?
this one had like Jock of the Bushveld in
Oh,
it,
yes,
and
okay.
Huberta the hippo, and it
Right.
had all these real world, real life stories with drawn out pictures. And I loved that book so much. And I when I got to the library, I'd take it out so much that my mom eventually bought me a copy. She was like, "You're loving it so much, I'm going to buy you a copy." And so I'm sure kids have got many books today that they can sort of go and get and whatever. But I wanted to take the news that's happening now, things that are relevant now, and turn them into stories that kids could read, or parents could read to their kids, or teachers could read to their classrooms. So we recently launched in the lead up to Youth Day our For Kids storybook section, where we've taken these stories and physically put them in a child format,
Oh,
so that
beautiful.
it's child friendly, and they're beautiful stories that are real. And even when I was sort of reading the edits, I was like, I'm moved by this. I'm moved.
Wow.
And they've got beautiful storybook pictures that come with them as well. So it's a
That's wonderful.
generation of news stories and news stories that you can share with your children and maybe change that narrative and tell them
Completely.
good things about the country.
Because that's what we need. Now, talking about the stories, tell us about some of the stories that have genuinely moved you. I mean, the ones that stuck with you as a parent,
Yeah.
as well, as a human being. Which are the ones that stick out for you?
So one of the biggest that I always go back to is one of the first stories I ever wrote. It was sent to me, and at the time, a decade ago, it was quite difficult to try to find good news on a daily basis. Not because it wasn't there, but because the other news was newsing so hard that you couldn't really, it wouldn't shine through. And it's a story about a man whose name is Andy Loughton. Andy Loughton, down in Somerset West, had a soup kitchen that he ran, that he worked for every single day. And this one day in particular, he was thinking about purpose and passion and helping these people that he was feeding in more of a way than just feeding them. And so he stopped at his local store, and he got a whole bunch of garbage bags and went into the soup kitchen. And he said to everybody there that day, instead of just giving you free food today, I'm going to give you a job. I'm going to give you your own sort of employment. Go out into Somerset West and clean it. Come back with one garbage bag. You can have a meal. Come back with two, and you can get something out the charity pile. And the reason why that story has stayed with me for all these years is because when I wrote that story, it went crazily viral. It was being shared by so many people.
Right.
And it was a realization for me that South Africans were desperately in need of good news. Good news. And it was an inspiring story because, again, it was a simple idea, thinking out of the box, but literally impacting lives in such a positive way. And we've revisited his story over the years. What a great guy. He's just such a great guy. And he's created a real program out of that small thought. He's now got accommodation and charity shops and all sorts of things that he's sort of built from that. But yeah, that's a story that has stayed with me. And then we haven't edited that story into a storybook version yet, but we will. We'll
Yes,
take
you
a story
must.
like that, and then when kids read it, they can go, we can help too. We can do
Absolutely.
things too. We can inspire each other.
So what are some of the stories that you have put in the TV
Oh, that's so
section?
exciting. That's so exciting.
Please,
So
I'm dying to know.
yeah, there was a beautiful story that came out of the Addo Elephant Park about an elephant named John.
Mm-hmm.
And in the grown-up version of the article, you would go on to read that the sort of caretakers that were looking after the animals in that side of the park, they were actually thinking about putting him to sleep because he was being so aggressive, and it was just he was breaking everything, and John just wasn't a happy elephant. But in the storybook version, you'll hear that John the elephant was very cross. And the caretakers that were looking after him were trying to find solutions to make him happy. And John the elephant, what they realized is he was breaking a lot of the pipes, and he was breaking into sort of the camp to the Jojo tanks. And so they realized that perhaps there was one ranger, John. His name was also John.
Okay.
John the human, not the elephant. That maybe this elephant was looking for water, that he wanted fresh water. So in a last effort to give him one final chance before they had to do whatever they needed to do, they moved him to a part of the park with a beautiful, beautiful, clear stream with like clear water, beautiful water. And after making that decision, John the elephant was never cross again. He never broke anything again. He was a happy, happy, happy elephant. And when John the human, the ranger, when he finished his chapter at Addo and he moved on to his new role, I think he was there for 28 years. He hadn't seen John the elephant in a couple of months because he was happy. He was living his good life. There was no reason to see him. And 3 days before he left the park, John the elephant came to his house, literally, to just say goodbye and thank you. And that's one of the stories that we've translated into a more child-friendly version. There's no euthanasia in that.
Oh,
We've just
beautiful.
made it very child-friendly. So those are the types of stories that we've told, and we want to keep on telling, so that parents and teachers can have that time with kids to tell them real South African stories that are beautiful.
Yes, and there's so many messages within that story.
Oh yes,
right?
and that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Kindness, second chances, doing the right thing. And then obviously the beautiful ending of, and the elephant really did come and say goodbye.
Yeah.
He was thankful.
And being kind to our animals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they understand us. They really, really do. Oh, well, I can only imagine the number of stories that was in there. Can't wait to see it.
Yes.
Absolutely can't wait to see it. And to share it with our community as well as soon as it's up and ready. So
it's up and ready. You can find it on Good Things Guy. You go to the 4 Kids section. I think there's already 12 stories there, and my team will be converting and editing. But we're going to try to do 2 or 3 a week. We just
wonderful.
keep adding new stories in there.
Well, these are going to be great bedtime stories. Moms and dads are always looking for good content.
There you go. You can find it at Good Things Guy.
Now, you've also had this incredible moment of sitting down with Oprah, right? That must have been jaw-dropping. But what did that conversation teach you about the positivity of storytelling?
So she's the greatest, in my mind, one of the greatest storytellers in the world. She's used her platform for years to tell stories or to let other stories be told. And I grew up watching Oprah, so it was part of my routine. I didn't have DSTV or Mnet as a youngster. I used to watch SABC when Oprah came on every afternoon.
Yeah.
And so to sit across from her was one of the greatest highlights of my career.
Yeah.
It really was. And in that conversation, I mean, the whole purpose of her being here was because of that school that she created, the School for Young Women.
Oh, yes.
And how she had realized somewhere along the line that the school wasn't enough for just education. The young ladies that were coming through those doors needed to deal with a lot of tragedy and trauma that they had in their own lives. And in order to do that, she brought in psychologists and doctors and all sorts of things to create a trauma-led education system. So deal with trauma first, and then we learn. Then we learn. If you're not coping, one of the things that was explained is like when you're sitting down and your leg shakes, where it does that sort of up and down, that it goes like that. That's you trying to regulate your nervous system, according to these doctors and psychologists. And so when we realize there's regulation needed, then you can start to regulate whatever traumas you have, and your decision-making changes. So once they changed that whole system, the ladies that have since gone on to matriculate are doing the most incredible things in their lives. They're going to Ivy League universities in America, which Oprah's paying for, and they're becoming doctors and teachers and great things. And here is the best part of the story. Most of them are coming back to South Africa to bring those skills back here, to make a difference
beautiful.
to more kids. But you asked what was one of the biggest things?
Yes. I mean, what did you learn about the positivity of storytelling from her? Like you're saying, she's a great
Great
storyteller.
storyteller.
But how does, and yes, she does some amazing work around the world. But what are the impact of those stories that
Yeah,
she tells?
so
Because she still does it.
she still does it. It changes lives. I think that was one of my biggest realizations sitting across from her, is that we have the power to change lives in the stories that we tell. And I think at Good Things Guy, we've become this platform where we get to tell other people's stories. Just said it again.
Yes.
We do get to do that, and it's such an honor. It's such a privilege, and it does change lives. We tell stories of communities rallying together. Recently, there was a little baby that was sick from a very young couple. Baby was only 9 months old, RSV and pneumonia, and in ICU, and they didn't have enough money the medical aid had sorted out some stuff, but they were battling. And they contacted us in the hopes that we could tell their story, and we did. And our community jumped in to just donate money towards that. It's life-changing. It's life-changing.
It is.
So I think that's what I learned from Oprah. It was a reminder that the stories we tell and how we tell them and when we tell them, they are life-changing.
Yeah. But in the South African context, I mean, specifically here, I think there's a different weight, and being a parent in South Africa, like we said, the safety concerns, the economic pressures, this uncertainty. But is good news still possible here? Is it responsible?
Yes. Throughout my career, I've seen that there's not just one story to our country. There's not just one story. Yes, there are hard things happening every single day, but alongside them, good things are happening as well. Two things can be true at the same time, even though they could be so opposite.
Yeah.
And in the hardest of stories, those helpers do always come. They do always come. So those are stories that we can tell as well. So yes, it's tough in South Africa. I don't have rose-tinted glasses on. I live here. I've lived through horrible experiences when it comes to crime and sort of impacting myself and my family. But that's not the only story that we have. And so that's not the only story that we should tell.
Absolutely. So if we have to get really practical here, right? For a parent that is listening right now and they're on their way to school drop off, just it's dinner time and trying to get everybody to sit around the table. What are the 3 things they can do this week to start shifting the narrative in their home?
I think the first, and you're already doing this as a parent, is to teach your kids to be kind. I think kindness also has the ability to save lives and to change the world. So kindness for me is when given the choice to be right or to be kind, choose kindness. That's a quote from Wonder, one of my favorite movies. Maybe that's another point. Get your kids to watch Wonder because it's also got such great messages in it. So kindness for me, above all, it trumps everything. We need to teach our kids to be kinder. And also maybe then I need to say you need to be kinder to yourselves, moms and dads. You need to teach that voice in your head to be nicer to you. And the stories we tell, we've gone through that already. So a practical thing. You don't have to come to Good Things Guy. I'm not here to flog my website to you.
Yes.
There's good stories all around us. There's good stories in your community WhatsApp groups. There's good stories in your family. Find those good stories and hold on to them. And then the final one would be gratitude. Gratitude definitely does equal happiness. So remember the have to get to.
Yes.
Those are 3 practical ways.
I love that. Definitely doable. Definitely doable. I love that. And what about the mums, right, who are in that really tender season, right? They have a newborn, they sleep deprived, they're feeling like the world is a scary place to bring them in to right now. What would you say to them?
So it's going to be difficult because I've never been a mom, right?
Yes.
I'm a dad, never been a
No.
mom. But I want to speak from my perspective
Yes.
here. And moms, you also need to care for you. You need to fill your own cup. And that might be difficult if Baba's not sleeping, if things feel a little bit overwhelming. You need to find a moment in the day, even if it's just handing your baby over to your husband for 5 minutes while you lock yourself in the bathroom and have a lekker bath.
Yes.
Just find something to fill your own cup again, because we cannot pour from an empty cup.
Absolutely.
And so I know that sounds difficult, and you might be thinking, Brenty, you're nuts. There's nothing that I can do right now to fill my cup. Find something.
Yes.
Just find something. If it's your favorite food, or if it's a moment that you can listen to your favorite song, or if you can just put some nice clothing on, I don't know. Find something just to fill your cup. And as you fill your cup, you'll see that it's not so overwhelming. That it's not as big as you think it is. Sometimes, this is a great quote. Sometimes the dragon that we're fighting in our heads are really, really little, and sometimes they don't exist at all. So you might be thinking it's very overwhelming and big, but you just need a moment to step away, fill your cup a little bit, and you'll come back with a clearer head.
Yep. And again, I think it always helps, like you said, to surround yourself with the good news.
Oh, yes. Good news and good people.
And good people.
And good people.
Yes. It's the good people that bring the good news. Like Brent himself, that's absolutely true. It's knowing, and again, for these mums, I think that simple act that you've spoken about earlier, and you told us again, the things that you think that you have to do and the things that you get to do.
I promise
it's
you.
That change in mindset that can make wonders to anybody.
It's changed my life looking at it like that. And when I share it often, because I want to remind people of that attitude, the attitude of gratitude. And I've got responses back and emails and messages saying it's helped people. It's helped them get through a hard day. It's helped them change the way they see the world. So definitely, the have to get to, so important.
Absolutely. So before we close, I want to do a quick myth bust session.
Oh, I'm scared. Okay. Let me have a sip of water. I'm excited. Where are we going with this?
But I want your honest response, right? What are your thoughts on good news is just toxic positivity?
It can be. It can be. But also it's not. So I think that toxic positivity is just looking at one thing and not everything. And the reality is, I know what's happening in the world around us. It's about balance. It's not about just looking at one thing. We need to see everything.
Absolutely. What about it's irresponsible to focus on the good when the world has real problems?
We have to focus on the good because the world has real problems. If we only saw the problems all the time, we would be so sad. We would be so sad. And that goes again back to our choices and living in a state of fear and sadness and anger. Our choices we make are very different when we're in that state. So, yes, the world has problems. South Africa has problems. Everywhere there's problems. But two things can be true at the same time. Good news is also happening.
Exactly. What about one person sharing good news can't actually change everything?
The starfish. It's all about the starfish. You know the starfish story.
No, please share.
Little kid is on the beach and picking up, there's a whole bunch of starfish that have washed up. And he's picking them up. I'm going to get the story completely wrong. It could be a grown-up. It could be a kid. We're going to say a kid in this one. Picking up the starfish and throwing them back. And someone stops him and says, you're never going to be able to get all these starfish back. You're never going to make a big enough difference to save everybody. And the little boy looks at the starfish in his hand and he goes, but I've just saved this one. That's why it's important. Just one story, and I remind my team of that on a daily basis, that if one person reads something that you've written and they feel hopeful, happy, proud, they laugh a little, they look at the world a little bit differently, your job is done. So it's just that one.
Just that one. Well, that's an amazing wrap up to this conversation, Brent. I think so. Just one piece of good news can change your whole day.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And everything that comes with that. So we want to keep this infectious energy within our spirits and within our daily realm. So for those of us, our listeners who want to reach out to you for more good news, where can they connect with you?
So if you want to get good news, you go to goodthingsguide.com, and that's available everywhere. Social media, all the different places, goodthingsguide.com. If you want to connect with me, I'm not just about good news. I'm also a funny guy. I ride bicycles. I've got dogs. I've got kids. I've got a husband. There's lots of things going on. You can search for me, Brent Lindeque. It's that easy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really, really. You have lifted my spirits for today. Definitely. I wish I could meet you every day.
I'll do a morning call. You can a video call.
Love it. I get to chat to Brent every day. That's going to be mine. That's going to be mine. Well, to all our listeners, if this episode helped you, I think please share it with another parent who needs to hear it too. It's the biggest gift that you can give us. And remember, you can find us on Spotify, on Apple, on YouTube, and on the Mama Magic website. And if you have a topic you'd love for us to cover, please drop us a message. We promise we will get to it. And again, a big thank you to Brent. It's been absolutely uplifting, grounding, and honestly, exactly what every parent needed to hear. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been such an honor.
Well, until next time, mums and dads, keep asking the big questions. I'm Projeni Pather, and we look forward to seeing you again on Lights, Camera, Baby.